Moving on, let's talk about the National Football League. A crazy week of major upsets and heartbreak for some team, and another week of career ending, or not career ending, but season ending uh injuries and things like that for certain teams. And I mean, just one of the NFL so far has been fascinating for many years, and especially this year included. First off, that Thursday night game, the 49ers versus the Giants. Going into this game, I think I thought that it would be closer. But I think at this point, it's safe to say that the 49ers are head and shoulders above probably the remainder of the teams. Offensively, they're one of the best teams in the league now. And defensively, I would probably argue that they are the best. Certainly one of the best in the league. I mean, all three levels of their defense, their secondary is amazing, great safeties, great cornerbacks, linebackers, fantastic. And their defensive line is probably the best in the entire NFL. So nothing new going on with the 49ers last week, a 30-12 win with 310 passing yards for Brock Purdy. I am hoping that for the remainder of the season, he does not become a weak point in that offense. I still think that you have good weapons around him. So if need be, you just get the ball in their hands and they're able to make something out of nothing. But uh, I'm just waiting to see how Brock Purdy does for the remainder of the season. I don't need him to throw 310 yards like he does in this game. I need at least probably 250. But with that being said, I think that you could potentially see a fairly average performance by Brock Purdy for the remainder of the season. I sure hope. I sure hope. I don't need him to be fantastic. I just need him to not make any mistakes. Going on to the one of the weird games, this Cleveland Browns game. I mean, early on in this game, it was kind of a matchup between two fairly bad teams. I mean, this first quarter was a pretty tough watch. But then the Titans just collapsed. I mean, you see this here. 13-25 for 104 yards and zero touchdowns, zero interceptions, and 5 sacks for Ryan Tannehill. A frankly embarrassing performance. But it was not completely the fault of Ryan Tannehill. I mean, he was under pressure all day. I mean, this defense of the particularly the pass rush of the Browns has been fantastic for years in the past. But on the other side, you have Deshaun Watson, who I thought played pretty well. He had some late game scores. I mean, I think his last touchdown, yeah, the last touchdown to Amari Cooper was kind of just a wide open play. So, but the previous touchdowns and drives from him in the game, I thought he played very well. A big bounce back from him. Um, but this Titans defense is just, I mean, it's I it's not just on the offense anymore. I mean, this defense has to provide some ability when it comes to um their pass defense. I mean, look at this. Their rush defense, not bad. I mean, not bad, but in terms of passing, you have to be able to stop Derek Carr, have to be able to stop, although they did stop the Chargers in a overtime win last week, or I guess 2 weeks ago now in week two. Um and then last week against Deshaun Watson. I mean, offensively, this was definitely a different game for them. Their worst offensive performance of the year. Um, but you got to show some improvement. And I mean, their schedule doesn't really get that much easier. You got the Bengals coming up at home, on the road at the Colts, which doesn't look like as bad of a team as many have thought. The Ravens, then they come up on a bye, and then their schedule kind of eases up a little bit after that. But certainly offensively, not one of the best teams in the league. And now that DeAndre Hopkins move looks like it didn't make any difference whatsoever. I mean, let's see what Hopkins did in the game, because it certainly wasn't much. 3 catches, 48 yards. I mean, that's not getting it done. Not getting it done. Moving on to the next game, the Falcons and Lions. I'm very surprised at how well the Lions offense has looked this year. I thought that their defense would be their best aspect of their team, their best unit. And that is not the case. I mean they're very well balanced both offensively and defensively. But their offense has been fantastic this year, and their defense has been fantastic as well. This game, I thought Jared Goff played very well. They look like they have a backup tight end now, or they look like they have a almost a tight end replacement after losing T.J. Hawkinson via trade. Um, Sam Laporta, yeah, Sam Laporta, 8 receptions, 84 yards, and a touchdown. Fantastic performance by him. I do think for the Falcons going forward, however, there are some bright spots. I do think, even though they didn't, in the long haul, they didn't get it done, I think Desmond Ridder is probably their quarterback. He is accurate enough when you need him to be. He's athletic enough. And I think he really fits well into that offense. What that offense kind of aims to do is run the ball really well. And I mean, if they had a more athletic quarterback, sure, they could do it well. But I mean, Desmond Ridder's not a small guy, and he's very athletic for his size. And I think that he has some weapons around him. I thought Drake London had some great catches early on in this game, and I think the Falcons will be fine. They kind of know what their identity is, and they kind of know what they do best, which is always a good sign for any NFL team. You kind of don't want a team who doesn't know kind of what their identity is, what they do well, and repeatedly does well over and over again. So it's not the end of the world for the Falcons. I just think the Lions are pretty much that good. Also, staying in the same division, a win for the Packers in a overall, I guess, a good performance for Jordan Love himself, but there are real concerns here. Real concerns for the Packers. The Saints did lose Derek Carr in this game. He was injured. An AC joint is what took him out of the game. And now they're probably going to be out a couple of weeks without their starting quarterback. So this is going to really hurt them. But the defensive performance by the Saints was phenomenal. Jordan Love was under pressure all day. And even when he was throwing the ball, it was into tight coverage. And it was not until the fourth quarter where the Saints defense just kind of played a little bit too loose, and Jordan Love was able to move down the field. So, I mean, props to Jordan Love. He played his ass off in this game, and I got to give him props for that. But still a tough loss for the Saints nonetheless. I mean, I would have expected them to pull out in this game. I mean, in those last couple of drives, you saw some potential of them getting away with a win, but I just think with the loss of Derek Carr, it was you kind of knew that the game was over, and it was kind of on the Packers to take the lead. But it was, as you can see right here, that fourth quarter by the Packers was where they did all of their damage. 18 points in the fourth quarter. Fantastic job by them. But if you watch the first 3 quarters, this looks like one of the worst offenses in the league. So definitely a lot of concern for Jordan Love. That was a poor performance by him, but comes out with a win, so you got to give him credit. Time now for our first major upset, a game I did not see coming. 37-17, Texans over Jags. This was a wild one. I mean, the Jaguars offensively could not move the ball down the field. It was very weird, very weird. And then defensively, they gave up pretty much everything. I mean, you just look at you just watch this game back and you kind of see Trevor Lawrence later on in the game, he was kind of able to get his groove back, but just early on, he was not able to convert really any plays. And maybe that's a result of, could you even make an argument of not having a good team all around him? I don't think so, but just a poor performance overall by the Jaguars, obviously. But a fairly good performance by CJ Stroud. I thought he had a terrific game. You see that long 68-yard pass. I mean, he was dialed in, and the division, I don't know. I do wonder if the AFC South, if there is a potential that with a rookie quarterback, the Texans can really make some noise and potentially win some more games. I don't know. Their rushing attack looked very good in this game. Dameon Pierce is looking like a real bona fide running back for them. So I think that they will have some more success in the future. But this was a very surprising game to watch live. Each time that I saw a drive by the Texans, I was left with saying, wow, CJ Stroud looked good and they can really run the football. Moving on to our next game, one of the greatest performances I've ever seen in a football game. I mean, in the first half, if you're going to score 35 points, that's a good sign. And the Broncos defensively just got absolutely torched. And this is a game where I think it was a multitude of not being fast enough and also not being able to tackle as well that I thought were the real big defensive problems for the Broncos. I almost said Bears. But the Broncos really bad in terms of their defense. Offensively, I didn't have any real issues with them. Yeah, they couldn't put together drives. As a rushing team, they're really below average. I mean, let's check their season stats now after 3 weeks. I mean, obviously we know offensively they're not great, but in terms of a rushing attack, I mean, 26th in the league. They're 10th in the league for yards per attempt rushing. So they're not a terrible team rushing, and then passing. Sixth in the league for touchdowns and 8th in the league for yards. I mean, they're not a terrible offensive team. It was just more so that one, they weren't able to produce offensively in this game, but I think it was just that their defense was letting points go, and that offense had little to no rest, and then they would get on the field, get a 3-and-out, boom, other team comes down the field, and Dolphins score. But main takeaways here: will the Miami Dolphins continue to keep this going as long as they stay healthy? One, that's first off. And as long as they are able to keep this type of speed going up, where their players don't get tired, don't get fatigued, and that defense is able to play as good as they have all year. Because this pass rush for the Dolphins, I talked before the season about how much I really do like this defensive line and linebackers unit for the Dolphins. I mean, we know cornerback wise that they're pretty stacked there. Um, Jalen Ramsey has still yet to play a football game yet, so that is something to be happy about with this squad. But overall, a good win from the Broncos. All right, next up, Chargers Vikings. One of my favorite games to watch, and one of my best dueling quarterback experiences, or one of my favorite, I should say. Justin Herbert, he really is that guy, and it's another time of Kirk Cousins played good enough for them to win, but he was just not there. He was not able to go there. I kind of want to go to drives. Let's kind of go to. You're gonna let me. So you're gonna go down to it. All right, here we go. There we go. You kind of look at. I mean, the obvious thing here is the the running game for the Vikings is their massive hole in offense, and their inability to run the football has just left them to get pretty much nothing. Pretty much nothing going offensively. You kind of know exactly where they're going to go before the play, and that ultimately hurts there. I mean, they're touchdown. They get a touchdown here, make it 21-17 in the third quarter, 3 minutes left. And then they're able to force a pretty good drive by the Chargers into a ultimate 3-and-out for them via a sack by Danielle Hunter. Like I said, one of the best defensive ends in the entire NFL, probably on the face of the earth. And now they're in a good spot. They get the ball in the fourth quarter, 15 minutes left. And you kind of see right here, Alexander Mattison, no gain on a run. Offensive holding, 10 yards. Not looking good. Then it's 1st and 20. And it's basically up to Kirk Cousins to pass the ball and move it down the field because they want to score some points. And ultimately, they're able to score some of those points. And then that makes it a 21-24 game. And then with 11 minutes left, Chargers come down, score again to make it a 4-point game. And then it's kind of on the Vikings. They get, as you see, 2 drives to try and score again. And unfortunately, they're not able to, because I think part of the issue is once you get into these late game, close game situations with the Vikings, you know probably what exactly they're going to be running. You know that they're going to be throwing because it is a late game situation. You know who they're going to probably throw it to, who they're going to target. They do have a lot of weapons, but it feels kind of like a foregone conclusion of where they're going to go with the football. They're going to try and push it down the field, and they're going to try and be as aggressive as they can late in these games. And unfortunately, there is no threat of a run. So we'll have to see the remainder of the season. What they can kind of do early on in these games when it comes to running the football. You can't have 2 drives at the end of the game where you're expecting Kirk Cousins to all of a sudden become Superman. Next, Patriots, Jets. The Jets are looking really bad right now. Defensively, they're still amazing defensive performance by them. However, offensively, they're not doing themselves any favors. You got Joe Namath coming out, calling out Zach Wilson. I mean, overall, just not a good spot for this franchise. This franchise is in desperate need of. I didn't even see her back there. In desperate need of Aaron Rodgers back at the helm. But until that point, I'm gonna say that they're probably not gonna make the playoffs. So doubt that Aaron Rodgers is gonna make it back to this team. But their defense is good. They can run the football, but outside of that, they can't do anything. On to my favorite game of the week, a game where I thought the Baltimore Ravens would win very comfortably. No Anthony Richardson. It's Gardner Minshew's turn. And Gardner Minshew even got a safety in the end zone with 2 minutes remaining. He gets a safety into the end zone. Crazy. And then, as you see right there, 2 straight field goals after their own safety. This was a good performance by Lamar Jackson up until late in the games. It was just their offense just couldn't get it together. And then let's go back into these drives. I'll scroll all the way down. Oh, perfect. This is probably easier to look at right here, but looking by the quarter, props to them for um tying it up right here. But unfortunately, it was not an ideal play right here. I mean, you see they go on downs, and then Baltimore gets 4 plays right here, 7 net yards after a 43 6-yard play in overtime, 7 minutes remaining. They go down on downs, and then the Ravens get the ball. They had a real shot. They got the ball on the 46-yard line. And ultimately, they were not able to complete it. Now let's go kind of right here, see what Lamar Jackson passing complete. Pass complete for 7 yards. Now we have 4 minutes remaining. It's 3rd and 3. Incomplete pass. 4th and 3. Another incomplete pass. And then that allowed for them to start on their own 47. Then 13 yards, 2 yards, 3 yards, 0 yards of rushing for Colts, and that's ultimately what did it. A bad late game performance offensively by the Ravens, and a good performance by the Colts. A real giant upset. I didn't expect this game to go to OT, and once it got to OT, I was like, okay, give me 2 drives. Maybe that first drive Lamar has some issues, but by the second time, he's just going to take the game over, and he's going to rush for at least 50 yards on this last drive, right? But unfortunately, that's not what happened. Next game, Bills Commanders. I think the Bills are kind of getting back into their stride. This was a game in which Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs looking like probably the best pairing of quarterback and wide receiver. I would take them as a duo more so over than, say, a Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson, although I think Justin Jefferson is probably as a whole a better wide receiver than Stephon Diggs. I think that quarterback wise, Josh Allen just has a little bit of an edge over Kirk Cousins, even though I don't trust either of them particularly that much in a playoff situation, primetime situation, or a late game situation. I do think that Josh Allen is a more reliable and a better quarterback. But I still have a lot of issues about him making these dangerous throws down the field. But not much else to see here. I mean, the Commanders are just got 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 to figure out their quarterback situation. That's kind of it. They defensively have been a little bit more disappointing than I would have hoped, but there's been some bright spots defensively and some offensively. I mean, they haven't put up 3 points every game, but this is a concerning performance to say the least. Next, 37-27 Seahawks Panthers. This was an interesting game. The Panthers, as you can see, were up at 1 point going into halftime, and they were kind of in control for the first half, and then you see in this fourth quarter 14 points. Very good by them, but unfortunately, they were not good enough. You see Andy Dalton, 58 attempts passing, 361 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 sacks. Certainly not what you would expect out of him, but he was asked to do a lot. And then Miles Sanders, their rushing attack has just not panned out this season. Miles Sanders is not looking to be as great of a pickup as they probably would have hoped. Now, that doesn't mean that it's all on him, but I mean, this rushing attack, they're 26 in the NFL in terms of attempts, 18th in terms of yards. However, they are 7th in the NFL in yards per attempt. So maybe they just need to run the ball a little bit more. I mean, going back to this game, they didn't really pound the rock with their running back, but they were able to score early. And I think they probably thought that they would be in a shootout in this game, which they were. And ultimately they lost. But I am interested to see kind of where this injury for Bryce Young will take the team. I do hope that he is healthy and he's able to play the remainder of the season, but not the worst case scenario for the Panthers. All things considered, a good performance against a good team. The Seahawks are a pretty good team. But I am interested to kind of see how well this team can do defensively and please run the ball a little bit more. I mean, you picked up Miles Sanders in the off season. I do understand in a close game like this, you got to throw the ball a lot, but try to establish the run early. All right, coming up next, we have probably, I don't know if this might be this maybe this is in the conversation for the biggest upset. Certainly coming up next, the Cowboys and the Cardinals, 28-16. Just one of those games where offensively for the Cowboys, especially late in the game, they just couldn't put things together and they kind of stalled out. And I mean, you look, they got what? They had 8 drives. All right. First drive, 3 plays, -5 yards and a punt. Next drive, 10 play drive, 44 yards and a field goal. 13 play drive, 75 yards and a touchdown. That's good. Then 6 play drive, 15 yards, and it ends up in a punt. Then after that, 13 play drives for 67 yards and a field goal. Then in the third quarter, with 7:19 remaining, 8 plays, 80 yards, and they go down on downs. Then in the fourth quarter, right at the beginning of the fourth quarter, 12 plays, 56 yards, and they end up with a field goal. And then get the ball back, 7:22 left in the game. They go on a 13 play drive, 69 yards, but unfortunately, it's intercepted. Now let's kind of go in right here. I mean, look at this drive. It started up good, but just poor interception. I mean, and they They just defensively, they kind of late in this game, especially you can see kind of right here, a 69-yard pass completion. Never a good look for your defense, but they had an opportunity to come back, and it's just they didn't convert. They didn't convert. And for the remainder of the season, the focus is going to be on their offense. The Arizona Cardinals should not have beaten this team. Um, the Dallas Cowboys defensively through this part of the season had looked to be one of the best teams in recent Cowboys history. I mean, they were having phenomenal performances, and then all of a sudden they're kind of having these issues. It's concerning. It's concerning to say the least. Coming up next, Chiefs Bears. Um, Chiefs, no concerns. Offensively, I was concerned about their couple weeks ago after that first week. Who are their receivers going to be? Is this finally the time where they're having these issues with receivers? But no. There should be no concern over the receivers. Travis Kelce is back in the lineup, 7 catches, 69 yards, and a touchdown. I mean, you look at their other top leading wide receivers, Rashee Rice, 5 catches, 59 yards, 2 catches, 51 yards for Justin Watson. Sky Moore with 4 catches, 42 yards. I mean, but then Kadarius Toney, 1 catch, -1 yards. That is something that I'll be keeping an eye on. But the main story here is Justin Fields. I mean, as an offense, let's go down to the drives. Let's take a look. Punt, 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 fumble, interception, punt, punt, turnover on downs. That's 8 straight drives. And then in the third quarter, they get a field goal on an 11-play, 25-yard drive. 11 plays for 25 total yards. 3 pass, 7 rush. And then their final one, a 9-play, 75-yard drive, which ended in a touchdown. What are we thinking for Justin Fields? How concerned are we? Because I'm extremely concerned. I'm extremely concerned. I mean, you look at this career. 5 of 23. Almost 60% completion percentage. 6.9 yards attempt, 27 touchdowns, 25 interceptions. Like right here. Received some MVP votes last year. Led the league in sacks last year. I mean, 17 touchdowns, 11 interceptions last year with a probably worst receiving cast last year. They did get Chase Claypool throughout the season, but overall, it's certainly not a good performance by him. And in terms of rushing, 1,100 yards last season, averaging 7.1 yards a carry. I mean, he was phenomenal, but he also led the league in fumbles. 16 is not good to look at. And this season, he's just fallen off a cliff. He's almost at half in terms of yards attempt for his rushing. And he already has 3 fumbles through 3 games. So it's not looking good for him. And what is the cause? Is this really because the Bears are just such an awful organization that they don't know what they're doing? That any player, any quarterback who goes there just all of a sudden falls apart? That the organization is so bad that no quarterback can make this better? I don't know. I'm going to lean on the side of Probably not, but I don't know. I don't know. I do want to pull this up though. I do want to pull this up because take a look. Take a look. I should have cropped this. I don't know why I didn't. Oh, do this instead. Justin Fields has 5 wins as a starter since being drafted in 2021. 28 games, 5 wins. Here are some notable quarterbacks with as many or more wins in that span. So, 3 quarterbacks have 5 wins in that time span since 2021. Cooper Rush, 5 wins. David Mills, 5 wins. Marcus Mariota, 5 wins. Now we get to quarterbacks during the time frame from 2021 who have more wins. Jameis Winston, 6 wins. Almost 7, but the Packers pulled out last weekend. Jacoby Brissett, 6 wins. 7 wins now. Teddy Bridgewater. Then we have Zach Wilson with 8 wins. Then we have Sam Darnold with 8 wins since 2021. Then we have Andy Dalton with 9 wins since 2021. And the icing on the cake, since 2021, Ben Roethlisberger has 9 wins, almost twice as much wins as Justin Fields, and he has retired. Now, let's be fair and say that the team surrounding the majority of these players is far better. I mean, the defensive unit of the Steelers for Ben Roethlisberger was much better than that of the current Bears team. I don't think that goes without saying. But Zach Wilson, I mean, somebody who many people are saying is one of the worst quarterbacks in the league history, which I would disagree with. I mean, I don't know how he's not terrible. He's got some real talent to him. It's just that he's not consistent and he makes too many mistakes. But you look at the other quarterbacks on this list. Is Justin Fields better than Cooper Rush? I would say yes. David Mills, yes. Marcus Mariota, yes. Jameis Winston, I don't know. Now I don't know. I don't know. Jacoby Brissett, I would say yes. Teddy Bridgewater, it's close. Zach Wilson, I would say yes. Sam Darnold, I would say yes. Andy Dalton, it's close. It's close. I would lean Justin Fields, but it's close. And then Ben Roethlisberger in his final years over Justin Fields right now. I would probably pick Ben Roethlisberger, but by a hair. But I say that to say that it is a red alert for not only the Bears, but for Justin Fields. The team around him is an absolute mess, utterly atrocious, disgusting, to say the least. It is foul. Defensively, not a great squad. Offensively, even worse. I mean, 87 pass yards against the Kansas City Chiefs. What are we doing? I just worry. I just worry about Justin Fields, and I mean, I was very high on Justin Fields too, right? I mean, I had a lot of good things to say about him. I thought that he could potentially be one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Certainly one of the best. And I said this last week, I think, one of the best, probably 3 or 4 athletic quarterback guys like Anthony Richardson, Lamar Jackson. But at this point, I'm thinking maybe Desmond Ridder is better than Justin Fields, because there are these moments where Justin Fields puts together amazing highlight reel plays, but then he's fumbling the ball 2 drives later. He's getting sacked in the pocket by holding the ball way too long. It's like he's not consistent play to play. And he's gotten some guys in the past offseason, which should have helped him out, but they just don't look good. Coming up next Sunday night, I thought the Raiders would win this one, and I thought that the Raiders played well. Um, I worry about Jimmy G. Was he the right guy to bring in? I'm not too sure. Um, for the remainder of the season, they should continue on what they did early in this game, which is throw the ball to Davante Adams. I mean, Davante Adams should be getting 15 targets a game. He should be getting at least half of the passes that Jimmy Garoppolo throws. Not to say that this team doesn't have other players who can catch the ball as well. It's just that Davante Adams is that good. And Hunter Renfrow is pretty good as well. But I mean, 2 targets, 2 catches, 17 yards is not ideal, but love to see this from Davante Adams. 172 yards, 2 touchdowns, 13 catches. I'll take that any day. Any day. And then Josh Jacobs, 17 carries for 62 yards. And then 3 catches for 18 yards as well. So not a terrible game from Josh Jacobs either. But Jimmy Garoppolo, 3 interceptions, 4 sacks. Just that was the game right there. Him throwing bad interceptions was what gave the game away because their defense played well enough. But it was when you're given three drives from turnovers, you're going to convert one of those. You're going to be able to potentially convert one of those, and the Steelers were able to do so. And offensively for the Steelers, a much better game for them. I do have a lot of concerns about them being able to spread the ball down the field. They feel like a team where they want to throw the ball like 5 yards or less each time that they pass. And I think that Kenny Pickett has the arm talent to throw the ball down the field. I mean, he doesn't have a cannon of an arm, but I mean, you have Pat Freiermuth, you have George Pickens, you have Deontay Johnson, who is obviously still injured, if I'm do say so myself. I mean, but they have some guys. They got Allen Robinson still. I mean, who can still play a little bit, but one of the worries about this offense is why is Pat Freiermuth not getting more involved in the game? I mean, 3 catches, 41 yards. He should be probably him and George Pickens right now should be the number 1 and number 2 options for them. And I do want to see a little bit more out of Darnell Washington. I mean, I know he's not probably the best tight end that you have on the roster. He is a massive human being. And I'd love to see him get involved in the passing game a little bit more. But this was a pretty bad game, but I thought that the Steelers have some real bright spots. I mean, offensively, they looked a lot better than they have in previous weeks. Going onwards, the Eagles versus Buccaneers game. Yeah, this was a game in which I didn't really even watch this entire game. I saw only bits and pieces of it just because I kind of knew what the outcome was going to be. And I wanted to watch this Bengals Rams game more so, but I thought that the Eagles appear to be probably one of the best 3 or 4 offenses in the league. Jalen Hurts, I think he'll be fine as a passer the remainder of the season. And as a running team, this is by far the number 1 team in the NFL. I still think that they could potentially go to the Super Bowl again. Just because defensively they are a very good at stopping. I think they had a safety in this game too, if I'm not mistaken. Let's check. I think they got a safety. Yeah. They got a safety in the third quarter with 3:40 left. Rashad White tackled an end zone by Nicholas Morrow. So a overall good performance by them. The only real takeaway for the Bucks is I don't think their season's over. I mean, they're 2-1. They did look really bad in this game. In their last game too, they were, I mean, 17-19 against the Bears, certainly, or I mean 27 to 17. A somewhat good performance, and then that first win in week 1 was very promising as well against the Vikings team, who appears to not have too good of a season, but they still have talent. They still have talent. They just got to figure out that run game. They got to figure that out. But certainly not a bad team in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That this defense is legit. It still is a legit defense. But we'll see what the Eagles do coming up. Rams Bengals. The Rams, I thought, played a fantastic game here. I thought that they played good enough to win this game. Too many mistakes by the Bengals early on. You could really see that Joe Burrow is really dealing with a injury right now. He's in a lot of pain, a lot of discomfort. But just not a great performance by this team. And I thought that Matthew Stafford, if you take out these 6 sacks, I think this is a fantastic performance by him. The defense of the Bengals is phenomenal. Maybe a top 5 to 10 team in the NFL. They got really good guys on that defense, and they're really good at putting pressure on the opposing quarterback. Their pass rush is legit, and they got some really good cornerbacks there as well. But Joe Burrow, 26 of 49, 259 yards with 1 interception. And I think at one point during the game, he was just on throws down the field. He was not accurate at all. It might take me a second to find this, but I think I took a screenshot of this. I guess I didn't. But on down the field throws, he was pretty atrocious. But Jamar Chase had a big game here. He did enough for them to win it. Tyler Boyd, I am a little concerned about, and T. Higgins as well. But their production is a reflection of Joe Burrow's poor performance. You got to hope that he's going to be able to continue to stay healthy for the remainder of the season, because if this is an injury that lingers or if it gets re-aggravated, their defense can only do so much. I mean, the Rams are I think they're the best passing team in the NFL in terms of yards. I mean, so the Rams are a fairly good offense. Yeah, third in terms of attempts and passing, and 4th in terms of passing yards. I mean, one of the best teams offensively when we're speaking about passing. Now, running is another thing, and in terms of scoring points, that's another thing as well. All right. I think that's it. That's it for the games of this week. So let's go. Let's pick week 4. Let's see what we got here. A little bit more divisional play. Let's start off with this Thursday night game, Packers-Lions. Well, actually, first, before we do this, yeah. All right, let's do a little housekeeping first before we get into our picks. All right, yeah. All right, let's look at the injury report for week 4. All right, we have for Thursday, September 29th. I guess this is week 4. Yeah. All right. Dolphins, Bengals. No, this is last year. I was like, hold up. The Bengals just play. Yeah. My bad. All right. We have Lions at Packers. You can kind of see here full participation in practice for Rank Ragnow. Good to see there. Nothing in terms of game status, a lot of limited and do not participate. No injuries, Falcons, Jags, no injuries, Bengals, Titans, no injuries, Broncos, Bears, Ravens, Browns, no injuries, Rams, Colts. Okay. All right. Nothing to report here. Good to know. All right, let's go over to winless teams, week 4 matchups. That's not what I was looking for. All right, here we go. All right, we have suspensions lifted in one player in particular that I really care about. All right, here are some other ones. Travis Johnson's suspension was lifted. Offensive tackle Will Richardson suspension lifted. Offensive tackle Isaiah Wilson suspension lifted. Defensive back Damon Arnett's suspension was lifted, and defensive back Mazzy Wilkins was lifted as well. Defensive lineman Roy Lopez was signed to the active roster from the practice squad for the Arizona Cardinals. Atlanta Falcons. Storm Norton is being signed off the Saints practice squad. NFL insider Mike Garafolo reported. Troy Anderson placed on the injured reserve for the Falcons. Ravens, Kyle Van Noy has agreed to terms with the Ravens to join their practice squad. Okay. Good for them. Browns, Deion Jackson signed to the practice squad. Devin Asai signed to the practice squad. Cut of Tristan Hill, defensive tackle, and Hassan Hall, running back. Some Lions injuries. David Montgomery thigh has a chance to play Thursday against the Packers. Head coach Dan Campbell told reporters he's starting to feel pretty good about Montgomery's availability. He was a limited participant in Tuesday practice estimation. Left tackle Taylor Decker, ankle limited, also has a chance to play Thursday. Center Frank Ragnow, toe rest, DNP. Emmanuel Mosley, limited because of a knee and a hamstring. And then safety, Kirby Joseph, hip, limited. So potential offensive line disappearances in this game. Now going for the Packers, Aaron Jones, he was limited because of that hamstring in Tuesday practice estimation. Really going to want to see him play because this could potentially be a pound the rock type of game. Wide receiver Christian Washington, hamstring limited, who has missed each of the Packers' first 3 games this season, says he plans to play on Thursday versus the Lions. However, head coach Matt LaFleur later said Watson has not been medically cleared and therefore would not confirm that the wide receiver would play. David Bakhtiari, he was a DNP. Offensive lineman Elton Jenkins, DNP as well. Linebacker Rashawn Gary was limited due to his knee, and Jair Alexander was limited due to his back. And then Chargers, devastating injury, Mike Williams, placed on injured reserved, torn ACL. He will miss the remainder of the 2023 season. Just an awful end of the season for him. He's struggled with injuries for years and years and years, and you just hate to see something like this happen. Minnesota Vikings, running back Myles Gaskin, released. Patriots, defensive lineman Daniel Equal, placed on injured reserve. Mac Jones isn't suspected to be suspended for allegedly hitting Jets cornerback Sauce Gardner in the groin during last Sunday's game. NFL insider Tom Pelissero reported per source. Jones said Monday that nothing was intentional. The NFL reviews all plays and it's possible that Jones could be fined. If you have a chance to watch, please watch that video. It's pretty interesting to see. All right, signings. Quarterback Jake Luton is being signed to the active roster off the Panthers practice squad. And Traquan Smith was released from injured reserve for the Saints. Giants. Saquon Barkley ankle remains day-to-day as the Giants prepare to face the Seahawks at home on Monday night. Barkley missed last Thursday's game due to an ankle sprain. Left Thomas, Andrew Thomas, with his hamstring, is making progress after missing last week's game, per Ryan Dable. Left guard Ben Bredson is out of the concussion protocol as well. Now, Jets, Trevor Siemian signed to the practice squad pending a physical. All right, Seahawks, Rashawn Henry waived from the injured reserve. He is a wide receiver. Tennessee Titans, Justin Murray signed to the active roster from the practice squad, and some injuries include Julius Chestnut placed on injured reserve, and safety Mike Brown placed on injured reserve. Now, with that being said, got a little bit more info, a little bit more context to go into our first matchup, the Lions and Packers. I am hoping that this offensive line and running back core of the Lions plays in this game. So I'm hoping that on the road, the Lions are going to be able to win the game. And I think they have a real shot of doing so. I am expected to see a good offensive performance and defensive performance as well by the Lions, and I think that they will be able to come away with a win here. I just, after that last performance, good late game heroics by Jordan Love, but that first half of play by the team was just not good, especially offensively by Jordan Love, and I think ultimately that will be the downfall. The Falcons and Jags. Now, after last week's performance, I am interested. However, they are, in terms of the Jags, what they do well is they are good at stopping the run. 7th in the NFL in terms of defensive rush yards a game, allowing just 84. So if they are able to control the clock, get some form of a running game going, currently they are about giving you 98 rushing yards a game. That includes Trevor Lawrence as well, running the football. But I will be interested to kind of see what their team is going to look like in this game. I will, however, in this game, I'm gonna take a little bit of an underdog. I'm gonna take the Falcons over the Jags. I think the Falcons are really going to start hitting their stride. I think offensively, what they do well is they run the football well, and I think this will be a week of maybe Trevor Lawrence can prove to me that he's one of the best quarterbacks, top 10 guy in the league, and he's going to have to put the team on his back because I think that, unfortunately, with the way that Atlanta plays, they hold on to the time of possession, and they get that ball a lot. So I'm going to take the Falcons for that very reason. Dolphins, Bills, one of my favorite games of the week. I think I'm going to take the Bills here. And let me explain why. 70 points by the Dolphins last week. Phenomenal performance, right? Obviously. However, I feel as though in a quarterback matchup that I would rather have Josh Allen than Tua. And I think that going back to last year, this was a good game last year. And ultimately in the playoffs, the Bills won. But I think this will be a high scoring game. I think this might get up into the mid 30s. Like it could be like a 30 to 33 type game. Like it could be a shootout type game. Expect a lot of yards, expect a big fantasy performance by both teams. However, I like this defensive unit for the Bills. They have been playing good all year. Third in the NFL in terms of defensive pass yards a game, allowing 142 pass yards a game and 110 rush yards a game, which is 14th in the NFL, and running the football as well. Not bad. However, if you look at the stats on the other side, Miami's been phenomenal this entire season. Best offense in the NFL, and it's not particularly close. But we will see. I am going to take the Bills in this game. I think they have a good defensive performance and they kind of shut down the options a little bit. But I think they win in a close game nonetheless. Panthers Vikings. Going to be interesting to kind of see what the Panthers are going to kind of trot out there. You see Bryce Young, he's going to be out, obviously injured. And I think this is going to be a pretty easy win for the Vikings. I don't think they'll win by double digits or anything like that, but I think I think they could potentially throw for say 350 yards and rush maybe have they even had a game where they rush for 100 yards yet? Have they had a game of 100 total yards? Let's see, rush yards. Okay, last game. Last game they had 130. Okay. So let's have another week of 130 rush yards against the Panthers. Let me get the Vikings getting their first win in week 4 of the NFL, something that I certainly did not expect. Broncos Bears, just an absolute travesty that we have to watch this. It's going to be a very low scoring game. It's probably going to be like a 3-6 game. I mean, these are two pretty bad offenses, but I'm going to take the Broncos here. I think this might be explosion time over in Chicago. I do think that Justin Fields will make some plays in this game where people like, whoa, like some highlight plays that go out on social media. But I think he's going to make too many mistakes and ultimately cost his team the game. I mean, just so disappointing because you want Justin Fields to be a great, phenomenal player. You want him to be a Lamar Jackson type guy and have that kind of a season, but it just doesn't look like it's going to happen. All right, Ravens and Browns should be a good game coming off last week's game. Currently, right now, the Browns are favored. However, I am going to stick with Ravens flock and take them over the Browns here. I think the Browns do a lot of things well. Defensively, they're a strong unit. Probably their best unit is their defensive unit. Offensively, still some concerns about Deshaun Watson. However, with that being said, I do like the defensive unit, even though there are a lot of guys out for the Ravens, which definitely does concern me. Um, let's wait and see right here. I am going to take the Ravens. However, I think Lamar Jackson is going to win this quarterback battle in this particular game against Deshaun Watson. Going on to our next game, Rams Colts. Give me the Rams here. I like the Rams. They really impressed me last week. I think that they have a real shot at not being one of the worst teams in the league. Matthew Stafford just has to kind of not make as many mistakes as he has been. But with the emergence of Puka Nacua, they have a real shot at potentially making some noise. And I think that if they stay consistent and they're able to somewhat have a good defensive performance against a young quarterback in Gardner Minshew, that they can potentially win this game. And that's why I'm going to take them in this game. On to Steelers, Texans. On the road, probably going to have to take the Steelers here. I could really see the Texans winning this game. I could see them winning it close. However, after watching that last week's performance by the Steelers, I don't think that they will all of a sudden fall off a cliff. However, I do think this is going to be a good game. Dameon Pierce, I think, is a legit running back. I thought he played well in last week's performance. Obviously, the entirety of the season has been less than desired, but I think he is a serviceable running back right there. But yeah, I think the Steelers are gonna have to win this game by passing the football. I think George Pickens probably gets himself a touchdown in this game, and hopefully so does Pat Freiermuth. And I think the Steelers win probably like a 21-14 type of game. Buccaneers Saints. Now, if you had asked me this going into last, well, I don't know. This is a difficult one. Let's see what the line is. Saints -3. Now, I would take the Buccaneers in terms of +3. I think this will be a really close game. I think the quarterback matchup is probably going to be in favor of the Buccaneers for me, quite honestly. But with that being said, the defensive unit of the Saints is absolutely no joke. They are a phenomenal unit. I mean, points allowing less than 17 points a game, which is good enough to win. You give 17 points to this Saints team, they could win. However, offensively, I just don't see it. I just don't see it. I don't think that they will be able to come out and make up against the Buccaneers. Now, I don't think the Buccaneers are going to be able to throw over the heads of the Saints. I mean, the Saints have a great defense, but I think that offensively the Saints are just going to kind of falter and fall over themselves. So, going to take the Bucks here. All right, Bengals Titans. Very tempted. Very tempted to take the Titans. But I mean, come on. Let's cut the crap. Bengals are only -3. Jeez. And people were expecting them to go to the Super Bowl again this year. I mean, I think it'll be a close game, unfortunately. But I mean, with the way that this Bengals defense has been playing, you have to take the Bengals. You have to. Yeah, I'm going to take the Bengals. Still think Joe Burrow struggles. I don't think that they do well in this game whatsoever. I just think it's going to be a low scoring game, maybe like a 14-17 type of game. And it's going to be a battle of defenses. Maybe Derrick Henry gets a touchdown or two. But outside of that, I think that they'll struggle. All right, Commanders Eagles going to be an absolute bloodbath for the Eagles over the Commanders. I will be interested to kind of see. I am interested in Sam Howell. I mean, you look at his stats, at about 65% completion percentage, 671 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He has not been awful. I thought he would be much worse. But you're going up against a really good Eagles team, and unfortunately, the Eagles are just playing at a different level right now. Different level. It's going to be hard to throw against them, and it's going to be hard to run against them. So, I'm going to take the Eagles over the Commanders there. Raiders versus Chargers. Chargers have been a little less than what many people would have expected for this season. However, with that being said, I think there are some bright spots for the Raiders. I mean, if they're able to have Davante Adams basically be their entire offense, they could really do some things and then sprinkle in a little bit of Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs has kind of fallen off a cliff from years past, and he has had some injuries. He's had some poor performances, but I don't think by any means is he a bad running back. I still think he's probably top 15 in the NFL. But it takes a team in order to move the ball down the field. So take the Chargers here. This is going to be a shootout type game because these are two really bad defenses. I mean, you look at the worst pass defense in the NFL, 337 yards given up a game by the Chargers. So Davante Adams might have 600 yards receiving today. All right. Patriots, Cowboys. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I mean, do I take the Patriots here? Do they win? I mean, the Cowboys -7 is a lot to give up. If I were going for the spread, I'd take the Patriots, but I think Cowboys are going to be able to win this game. Might come down to a late game score by Dak Prescott. But I think that this defense bounced back. Weird game last week. They kind of get their things together. They obviously had, I didn't even report on it, but the Trayvon Diggs injury is a massive loss to them. I think he's out for the rest of the season. So that's really going to hurt their defense. However, I still think that offensively, the Patriots are nothing special. So I'm going to take the Cowboys here. Cardinals, 49ers. Come on. Come on, son. What are we talking about? 49ers over Cardinals. Don't even have to look at that game. We know how it's going to end. Chiefs, Jets. Looking at this now, it looks like the worst primetime game imaginable. But if you were looking at this before the season, this looked like the game. But as it looks right now, I still think that the Jets will be able to maybe get an interception or a turnover in this game. I think their defense is that good, but I just don't think that Zach Wilson will be able to put together multiple. He'll have to put together multiple drives if they're going to want to win this game. All right. And then our final game of the weekend on Monday, I guess, is Giants Seahawks. Seahawks, I thought, have been playing pretty well up until this point. Looking to kind of see what is going to look like for DK Metcalf, Julian Love. Definitely want to see him there. Quandre Diggs. That's looking good. He still is questionable. I think offensively, this is going to be a big day for the Seahawks. I have not liked what I've seen defensively from the Giants. They have not been as well as I would have hoped. Now, part of that is that early's Cowboys game, which was just a really bad performance by them, and they have not seen to done any real thing past that in terms of a defensive performance, because obviously they didn't. I think they were shut out in that game against the Cowboys. But losing by double digits, giving up, what was it, 40 something points? Not an ideal performance for them, and they really have not done anything since, and just a lot of concern. A lot of concern for the Giants. Last year, they looked amazing. Their defense, I thought their defense would be one of the 5 to 10 best in the NFL. Currently, right now, it's not looking like that.